Welcome to our second panel about sustainability here at SEEK at FASHIONTECH Berlin. I'm very excited to greet you. I'm very excited to welcome you here. My name is Dorothee and I run an agency called DS Agency. My agency is focused on sustainability culture and supply chain transparency. And I teamed up with Premium Berlin for this amazing event. And when they asked me what kind of panel I want to curate, what kind of speakers I invite, I looked over the brand list and I saw something that I came across quite often within the last couple of months. Scandinavian design. It's everywhere. It's dominating the fashion industry and also the sustainable movement within this business. With fashion weeks like Stockholm, Helsinki, and Copenhagen being so evidently green and conscious, I was wondering, why do we perceive Scandinavia and the new Nordic design so interesting, so leading, and so green? So I'm very happy to curate this amazing panel with my guests from several brands that exhibit here at the trade show and 2 external speakers. So I would like to welcome on stage first Søren Sørensen from a shop called ResRes in Copenhagen.
Thank you.
Yeah, we need a little bit more applause. This is our sustainability leaders. Then Henrik Lindholm, sustainability manager at Sandqvist bags from Sweden.
Welcome.
Next is Rune Orloff, who is a sustainability consultant, freelance sustainability consultant for GANNI, and recently for his own project Pool. And Fredrik Ekström from the brand Tretorn that is focused on conscious rainwear and footwear. Welcome.
Thank you.
So before I start with my questions, I would like to invite you guys to just tell me a little bit more about your brand, about your work, about your portfolio, your shop, so the audience can understand where you're coming from, what you're doing, and yeah, what's your mission, so to speak.
Who goes first?
You can pick who goes first.
I go first. It's a little bit mixed orders, and because I represent a shop in Copenhagen called ResRes, which stands for Respect Resources, and what these guys are doing is actually what we are providing to the customers. It started way back for me personally, working in the outdoor industry, where I start seeing the movement about giving back to environment and giving back to nature and giving back all these kind of things. And for me, that was where it all really started to give or make sense. And this is back in 2006, just to have that cleared, so 14 years ago. It was a slow movement there. I was in that industry, came back to Denmark, saw an industry that was basically standing still from my perspective. And then we comes to 2015, where Lars and me sat down, my partner in this shop, and well, we need to do something. With my previous background in the retail industry, we thought, okay, let's give it a shot. We have to be able to reach out to end consumers with what we define as respecting resources. So all this dialogue started out by avoiding the word sustainability. Neither Lars and me is fans, not really a fan of that. But what we're a fan of is the word respect, and then of course looking into the resources. Saying that we cannot avoid the word sustainable, but we always, when we do something, we lead from respect, and then we're digging into to whatever materials or whatever it could be about labor, whatever it could be about environmental impacts. So that was the case. That was what we were whatever we did in the first baby steps, we had that in mind. And I think we were pretty lucky with the location.
Amazing location.
You have
Very
lived
good.
there?
If you haven't been, you should definitely check it out. It's one of the best locations in Copenhagen, I would say.
It's an area which have always been very, I would say, very aware of how to use second-hand, how to remend or whatever it could be. So we had that great location. I think the timing was perfectly. Timing, yeah, we're not the kind of guys who's like, so this is now, 3 years from now will be like this. I think we were lucky to get the location and be at the right time with the movement that we are seeing.
Perfect. And sometimes that's really, really a good thing, the combination of timing and movement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
I'll go
Don't
next.
be shy.
I can talk more. No.
I will ask you more questions in a second, no doubt about that.
So I'm Henrik from Sandqvist. Just give you a very brief overview of Sandqvist. It was started in 2004 by Anton Sandqvist, who made his own bag because he couldn't find any bag he liked out there. So he brought out his sewing machine and made a bag. People liked it, and they started manufacturing the bag and selling it. And since then, we have been growing. Now you can find us all over the world, basically. But sustainability has been at the core of the company. This is what I do, this is what I talk about, but I'll try to sum it up very quickly. We don't let the consumers choose. If you choose Sandqvist, you get what we consider the best bag we can find regarding sustainability. We only use organic cotton sourced directly from the farmers in India, so we can support the farmers directly through buying their organic cotton. We only use synthetic fiber, nylon and polyester containing recycled fiber. All leather that we use comes from tanneries, gold or silver rated by the Leather Working Group for their environmental work. I would say 95% comes from gold rated tanneries. Working conditions in our factories are independently monitored by Fair Wear Foundation. We're completely transparent, not only where the bags are sewn, but we can tell you the cotton field where it comes from. We can tell you where the recycled fiber in the polyester comes from. You just need to ask us. And lastly, because consumption and the way we use things is actually one of the biggest challenges we have, we also provide repairs for our bags in our stores in Berlin, London, Stockholm and Gothenburg to extend the life of that. And those 5 areas, I would say, is the core of our sustainability work at Sandqvist. Of course, we do more than that as well, but that I would say is the foundation of what we do.
Amazing, thank you.
Thanks for, is the microphone? Yeah, it's on. Thanks for inviting me, first of all.
You're very welcome.
I work as a consultant today, and I guess my entry point into working as a consultancy comes from the commercial world, from the trade shows and the sales fairs and wholesale, retail, e-commerce, and I was working for Maikita, the eyewear brand in Berlin for 5 years, building their global distribution network, and 3 years ago decided that I wanted to only focus on business for good and try to apply as many of these business for good mindsets into my industry learnings. So I went on a journey with Palais for the Oceans, collecting plastic for a year with them, and we built a lot of different products. Everyone knows the Adidas product, the sneakers. They sold 11 million pairs this year. But I sort of got my learning through waste and waste management and using waste again for a commercial product. And when I do consultancy today, it's very much in this gray zone Like, we need to have a sustainable business, but we also need to have a sustainable product, and how do we merge those two things? So that's very much what I've been doing with GANNI for the last 12 months and for other companies. Yeah, so I'm excited to be here today and look forward to the conversation.
Amazing, thank you.
Let's see if it is. So hi, I'm Fredrik, and I'm from the Tretorn. Our brand is, we've been around for a while. It was started in 1891 in Sweden. So, but I joined the brand in 2014 when we were looking into do like a restart of the brand and going through everything that's happened in the heritage with it. So in 2016, when we were celebrating 125 years, we were looking into what we had done, what the brand has done during the time before, and we found so many things in history connected to CSR, taking responsibility. We started one of the world's first private kindergartens for the factory workers in 1911, and we started to recycle rubber during the wars and started manufacturing that, and also making rubber from dandelions and stuff like that into the process. So when we were sitting in the archives and looking for what the next generation or the generation after that, 125 years to come, when they would be looking back now from our time, what would they be amazed of? So at that time, we decided to start what we call the Eco-Essential Initiative, which is a manifesto for the brand to slowly transform into being a more responsible manufacturing and taking care of all the levels in where we act. And it went a little bit faster than we thought. So we already transformed, all the bags, 100% of the sneakers, 85% of all the outerwears into recycled, recyclable, degradable, or upcycled materials. And I think from our point, it was very important to find a mission statement, a direction where we wanted to go, rather than saying, if we reach this goal, then we're satisfied. Because if we set a goal and we start working towards that goal, when we reach it, the industry would have evolved so much. So when we reach it, it will be old news. It will be late again. So rather than setting goal, we have a direction where we want to head, and then just have an internal saying that is just about doing stuff. If you do it, you learn from it, you drive it up to scale. Slowly, you transform everything from within. And then we rewrote our mission statement to say that we want people to enjoy everyday life outdoors. We're an outdoor brand, but we also want them to be part of creating a better world. And we can't solve that only by making more responsible products or taking steps by that, but we can also make it by encourage them to make better choices or to understand the differences, what's happening. So from our point, it was also very important to communicate what we do and make it fun to understand. To buy more responsible products doesn't have to be what we used to say I have a history from the food industry. Then we said that eco-food, it comes from hippie to hip. And it's kind of moving now, 10 years later, with the clothing industry, the same way, where it goes that you don't have to do everything 100% correct the first time. Just make it fun and then evolve and do it a little bit better the next time and the next time after that. As long as you don't take steps back, you're going in the right direction. And then make it fun while you're doing it. So that's also why all our collabs we do with other brands are also strongly into our Eco-Essential initiatives to get even other designers or brands that doesn't work in this way, for them to understand it and slowly inspire them to take steps in the right way as well. So that's what we work with, and we evolve slowly. It comes with a great responsibility working with a brand that is 130 years old. So
it's a great approach, absolutely great approach. So I would like to ask you first, as a definition question, how do you define Nordic sustainability? How do maybe you perceive it? Is it like something that you understand or that you see sparking due to some cultural basics, due to nature, due to your surrounding? Like, what means Nordic sustainability personally for you, for your brand, or defined through the experiences you made with it?
I can go.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that, I mean, I don't know actually in Denmark, but in Sweden we have allemansrätten, which means that, you're free to roam and camp wherever you want. No one that owns land can say, you can't put your tent on my land. So in Sweden, we are used to be out hiking, camping, walking, and we also have a lot of nature that is uninhabited, except for nomads, the Sami people up north. Yeah? So we have a lot of nature, but I would say that one thing that is typical more for Scandinavian sustainability is that it's not only about making a product a little bit more eco-friendly. It's also something that comes with our mindset of gender equality, taking care of humanistic values, like everyone has to get paid, otherwise, I mean, someone is losing in the end.
I almost want to applaud to this at this moment, to be quite honest. Amazing. Mm-hmm.
No one else thought that. No.
No, but I mean, I very much agree. We were sitting on the forbidden transport thing, which we're not mentioning on the way down to Berlin. No, anyway, and we were discussing allemansrätt, because that, that's very unique in Sweden, because in Denmark you're not allowed to do that. But what I do think about is the social responsibility we have in general. We are taking care of everybody. You have the right to get something from the government. You have the right. So I think it's very much into our DNA about taking care of each other, if it's allemansrätt or if it's the social security net, or so it's I think that part is. But I also think, I mean, what is Nordic? Now we're speaking on behalf of Nordic, and I think being from the Nordic, we don't see ourselves as like Nordic sustainable movement, or well, I don't see that. So maybe going to Germany or whatever, we might have a little sustainable star somewhere. I don't know.
You definitely
I don't feel it.
So
Go ahead.
So for Sandqvist, from the start, they defined the Nordic landscape as their greatest source of inspiration. So in the design, we want to reflect the Nordic landscapes, simplicity, and I think that also was a pathway into the sustainability, that we wanted to do things in a very simple way. So let's say when we decided to go for organic cotton, well, we didn't want to do like one niche product that would be like the sustainable one. We change all. If this is the best one, we'll do it all. And so the idea has always been to do, just as in the design, also in the sustainability, try to keep it simple, present simple choices or no choices for the consumers. So there's a relation between the Nordic, the design, and how we think about sustainability.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I just wanted to mention, because I think it's a lot to do with DNA. It's a lot to do with upbringing. It's a lot to do with the culture, and the culture of being allowed to maybe say what you think at a very young age. You can always do that. Everyone is welcome. We all start at an even place. I don't think that Scandinavia is the only place. I think there's also a lot of great companies in Germany and so forth. So I don't think we should put it on a higher, but I think that's one of the reasons. And one of the things that I've been working a lot with is always these very flat organizations where you look at everyone's DNA. It should be within every single decision making in the company. And if everyone feels like this, if they feel like they can make decision from any position, then it ultimately gets better slowly by everyone having a voice and not just like sort of the pyramid that you normally see in big American corporations, for example.
So it comes a lot from the basic idea of equality and social standards, I see. And possibly also I would round up, or I would guess, because of your surrounding, the nature surrounding, because of the ability to go and camp somewhere, to have a wonderful lake somewhere, and just like a surrounding that you kind of want to protect. What I found very interesting was your point with Sandqvist, like kind of reflecting this kind of minimalist approach in your designs and stuff, because this is something that I find very interesting for me. There's a lot of Scandinavian brands that do incredibly well with aesthetics. So how do you think that did this intersection happen between the right value chain or the right set of values and the right aesthetics, marketing, communication, visual communication? Because let's all be honest, you know, in the end it's the fashion business. You A, want to sell a product, and B, someone wants to buy something pretty, most likely. So where do you, coming from your brand, coming from your sales expertise with customers or your consulting, see that this is done right? What is the secret to it?
I don't think that any Scandinavian brands are perfect. I don't think that any supply chain is perfect, because we're always taking more than we're giving back. So I think it's a bit difficult to say. I think the communication is going really well. I think that
Agreed.
I mean, I don't know if we can promote other summits, but the Copenhagen Summit has also been a big voice in Copenhagen. It's been like the capital of summits. So I think that a lot of brands, local, learned a lot from how they were communicating this topic, how they talked about supply chains, but there's still so much hidden in supply chains that's not, I don't think it's perfect, and that I think that's wrong to look at it like that.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. No, there's 3 brands around, so I have to be careful.
No, but it's perfect to be critical here.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, the industry is shit. I mean, it is.
True.
It is. I mean, we are one of or the most polluting industry in the world. And here we are, I mean, now I'm getting a little bit, you know, shame on you guys and shame on me, I'm in it. But we are one of them. And we have to face, and I don't think the industry have faced what we are standing towards right now. I mean, if we take the 160 billion pieces of cloth produced every year and put in it to recycle, it still takes resources to produce the recycle. So we are talking a much more larger scale of changing in this. This is not about using the organic cotton. This is not about using the recycled materials. This is about changing our way of consumption. This is about changing our way of strategical thinking of business, because let's say in 2050 we will be regulated by how much we can be producing. Who should then have which shares? I mean, you can produce 10, you can produce 10, you can produce 10, I can sell 5. You know, that might be the future. And I think that's one of the things where I mean, right now we are talking about, a lot about the things which can be done right now. I'm very much interested in what can be happen in 2030, 2040, 2050. Will I have a shop which can survive that? Will I have take the right actions to be there by whatever I have defined for me? Hopefully with suppliers who is going in that direction as well. But going from one resource to another, and this is from conventional cotton to organic cotton, that's one step, no doubt about that. But the main problem in the industry is quantity produced and the resources that goes into that. And that's something which I think, no matter what summit there are, that's the one that very few actually addresses. So, yeah.
Agreed. I found it very interesting that you just talked about consumer behavior, because absolutely agreed. Like, we can sit here, we can talk about it, every brand can have an amazing sustainability strategy, etc., etc. It comes down to the consumer shift that needs to happen. I have a little bit of a maybe cynical question for you. And it's, whoo, sorry, I just lost my microphone. Too cynical.
And now you lost voice.
And you're out.
Yeah, you're out.
Yeah.
I think that
Cynical.
Yeah.
I think it's
Censored by Seek.
there's no light in it.
Well, can you still hear me?
No.
Ah.
Sorry, guys.
no worries.
No. One, two.
Oh.
Absolutely the best example for a critical question. That was about
It's perfect.
You're about to say something really bad.
asking
Yeah.
a critical question, and this is what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, woo, I'm back. All right. So the slightly cynical and critical question that I now so incredibly announced here is the fact that you are located in Scandinavia, you are located in Copenhagen, that you are from Scandinavia even though you operate from Berlin, and that you guys are Scandinavian brands as well. Do you feel with consumers, with your marketing, with your sales and with buying behaviors in your shop or the jobs that you get, does it give you a token? Does it give you like a...
Definitely. I mean, I would say that the main driver when we leave Scandinavia and go international is to talk about what we do with the Eco-Essential initiative. And it's not only... There's late bloomers, and then there's some more progressive parts, I would say. But you can see more correlation between like Stockholm, Berlin, London, Milano than you do between like Stockholm and say Växjö, which is like a small city in Sweden. So I would say like the main urban cities are driving it up, and we see, and then it goes a little bit different between country to country. Like in Italy, they have one behavior and they ask for one thing, and in Germany, they ask for another thing, and in UK, they all go vegan. They doesn't care, it's PU. So everyone is asking for different things, and I think that comes from like the matureness of the consumer. But it definitely has been a shift for the last, like, I mean, when we started 2016 with our first collab, we just did like a simple collab, buying leftover stocks from the factory, and like, they're gonna burn this, let's make rain jackets from it in small limited edition and call it the leftover project. And everyone was like, okay, yeah, is this the right way to do? You know, we make like polyester raincoats, rubber boots, are we there? Sold out in 11 days, and people were like, okay, maybe this is something. And if you make it easy for the consumer to understand what it's all about, then definitely. But I also think that if you, the other way around, make it hard, because you can do like, if you're more professional than I am, you would go like, okay, so let's go through all the chemicals, let's go through all of that, let's go through all this, let's do the life cycle assessment, let's do all, and then you're like, look how good we are. The consumer will just be like, yeah, but you know, give me a shirt. But if you can make it fun and give it a name, and you can tell them a little bit about what it is, the consumer is definitely there.
I'm a bit more skeptical. I think most consumers don't have the sustainability or environment as their #1 priority when shopping. And we can sell stuff by making some creative, fun project, but that will always be on the margin. And if we want to do something about the challenges we are facing, we need to change the whole system of production and consumption patterns. And I'm unfortunately quite skeptical of leaving that to the consumers. Because if we look for the last 20 years, you've asked consumers, are you willing to pay more for a sustainable product? Everyone says they are, but we haven't seen that increase in consumption of sustainable garments. I think we need to do, if we're looking at the big challenges like climate change, none of us here are part of the solution. So if we want to meet the goal of the Paris Agreement, only 1.5% increase in temperature, we need to be carbon neutral by 2050. We should peak 2020 and now start to decrease our carbon emissions. Is anyone here doing that?
It's still increasing.
It's still
That was a
increasing.
question to the audience.
No,
We are, of course.
no, we are looking. I don't have an answer. I can't say Sandqvist will do that this year, but we're looking at how we, trying to find a way to do it because we know this is what's needed. But in order to meet these challenges, I would say there's regulation, government action, and industry action, like by business associations and those things. Consumers should play a role in pushing us by their campaigns, by voicing their opinions. But when they're out with their wallet in the shops, I don't think that's where the biggest momentum comes from, unfortunately.
I also, sorry, just one follow-up on that. Now, I also agree on the government engagement, because it's, they had the proposal in UK that they will have like the fat tax or sugar tax you guys had, that they should have a taxing clothing differently. So if you have virgin polyester, you get a higher tax. If you have 50% recycled polyester in it, you get a lower tax. If you only have recycled fully, you get a really low tax. So you can drive the producers to, you get the incentives to go there so they can lower the prices for the consumers as well. It got voted down, as it usually does. But I think more and more of that kind of actions needs to be taken, and also the logistics around. If we created a recyclable jacket made of recycled PET bottles from the ocean, all in one fabric to be recycled again, but the consumer have nowhere to put it. They can't, because the logistics are not there. So I think definitely yes.
I mean, to be cynical, I think we keep talking about consumers. We need someone that buys more. And that's the only way that everything works around here. That's also the only way where we have all these booths and everyone's selling the new season, the new collections. And I know that there's some seasonless brands. But I mean, before we start talking about users and not consumers, we are nowhere, because everyone will produce more to get more. If it's recycled or whatever it is, it's production, it's resources. So I think there needs to be a big shift in this. There needs to be a big shift in how can brands and great creatives interact with their communities, rather than just saying the new one, the new thing. It needs to be a consumer coming in with their wallet to prove the case, right? It's also the thing, you need to buy something to prove it. I've been working a lot with these waste and how this waste production, you said 160 billion pieces, that's also the number that I have from all the studies. And it's there's so much waste out there, and it's created for this consumerism culture, but the brands are also part of this. It's not just the consumer.
Yeah, well, we are fortunate to meet these consumers every day, and every season when there's a new fair in Copenhagen and stuff like that, I always get the question, so there's more media about it, the fairs are having a lot more focus on it. That's at least what they're talking about. You can always talk about, the actually actions on it. But the last election in Denmark, the top arguments between parties was about climate changes, so I believe there is a change. And I feel it in our shop. When I talk with my mom, I'm getting really skeptical about where the world is going. When I talk with my brother, I don't need to go very far in my closest family or friends, and then start questioning, well, so I'm exposed for people who is entering my shop every day with, I would say, a much higher awareness about where we should go as consumers. When I start going into different kind of groups, then I feel something else. We are standing still. And I think that's where it comes into the responsibility of brands, the responsibility of shops buying, but also from from political. What can we make of laws? And I'm not fan of like registrations and you can only do this, da da da. But nevertheless, we need to find solutions so it's not up to a PhD consumer to figuring out whether this is right or wrong produced, because it is a nightmare to get around all these certifications, materials, da 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 da. It's so.
So you're basically saying that it also definitely has a lot to do with education. It has a lot to do with bubble building. It has a lot to do with the fact that if you, for example, go to a shop in Copenhagen, Nabro, that is perceived as sustainable, your demographics will be completely different than if you go to whatever, one of the high streets somewhere in Europe, one of the shopping high streets, right? I found it very interesting, and like one of my questions that I was supposed to ask was like, where do you think this is going, or where do you think this should go? And you already kind of mentioned it plenty, each of you, that it has to have like a bigger legislation, like a governmental kind of level, like regulations that don't only give the consumer the kind of options that needs to be regulated different, and I couldn't agree more. And coming back a little bit more to the product and marketing side and the face of Scandinavia in this, where do you think, or what do you think will be, with all of this, the next key movements, the next key trends, the next, I don't even want to say trends, but the next communication, the next topics that we can see in the sustainability discussion when it comes to brands and branding from Scandinavia? What do you think is going to happen there on the market?
Wish or think?
Both. You can, okay. Free speech. You can say whatever you want.
I can wish. I don't know what's it going to be, but I know that we in the fashion industry, we're very good at creating need and creating emotions among the consumers, so that they want to buy our stuff, they feel rewarded when they buy it. We're really good at that. And if that could be put into making people want to, for example, use the same bag for a very long time because it ages nicely, that if you have a bag from Sandqvist that you've used for 2 years, it has grown old with dignity. You have a unique piece that your friends can't have. And if we can do like that, I think, for example, nudie jeans, where I used to work before, they do that very well as well, like with the denim. Like, if you wear this pair of jeans for a long time, you repair it, you'll get a beautiful piece, and people want that. And trying to turn this want and these emotions to wanting to have products, in our case, bags, that you love and take care of. If we can put our talents into directing feelings in that direction, would be a great step.
I also think that, I totally agree, and I think that it moves a little bit towards that. To me, there's so many with the craftsmanship or do it your own and stuff like that. You want to be involved with what you buy. You get involved with the value system of a brand. You don't give your money to a brand with a bad value system, because that's like giving your lunch money to a bully in the schoolyard. You don't do it. You run. But what I see is that it's definitely growing into more of this like remake, repair kind of thing. So if we as brands can make it easier to repair, customize, do it yourself, so the clothing grows year by year, and you can actually change it and buy new zippers and stuff and make your own look evolve, that would be making everything lasts longer, and it also appeals to the consumer's craftsmanship, do-it-yourself kind of urge.
I dream about fashion as a service, you know, to binge wear great brands over and over again without having any impact. I think this is the future. It's happening in entertainment and happening in transportation, and I feel like you can see it's coming now through all these peer-to-peer platforms. I mean, Depop is a great example of a platform that's growing extremely fast by used garments, but the users are getting they're getting used to sharing. They're getting used to buying used things and reselling, and that's totally okay because you want to change your style and you want to change it fast. You want to be part of movements. You want to be part of communities that are wearing certain things, and you want to be able to change that. And if we look at the slow, sustainable system, it just doesn't work. I mean, to buy something that you wear for a long time, I do that. But it doesn't work with seasons, it doesn't work with trends, and it doesn't work with fast-moving communities. So I really dream of this service unit, where everyone has no responsibility of all the waste that they create, because it's organized by governments or by regulations from within.
Yeah, I wish, because I don't really think, I really wish that we're going to have a reversed certification system, where when I'm talking about reverse, then it's not about being God certified has a certain cost, and then that leaves a certain customer group because people cannot afford buying God certified or Swan labeled or whatever it could be. I would like it to be the other way around, that this is the standard and reach director in Europe is not enough. You know, we need to raise the bar about how things are produced, and if you cannot prove that, then it may cause cancer, may be produced by a child, you may die for wearing this 3 times. The person who have produced this has 33% higher suicide rate. You know, these kind of things. I think that's something that would that's what I wish would help, because then we'd turn it around. Instead of that, you are bragging about all the things that you are good at, I mean, you're just doing what we should do to embrace each other and take care of each other, and not taking advantage of Bangladesh or India or Nigeria or whatever it could be. No, it should be equal rights all over.
I honestly think there's no better note to end this talk about Nordic culture with than that, because that's pure equality, and I completely agree with you. I think that is a wonderful idea. Maybe we can plot after the talk how we can make this happen. Yeah, that is actually, or that's my questions for you guys here on stage, but I would like to invite the audience now. If there's any questions from your side, if you have any questions for the panelists here, you're very welcome to join the discussion now.
Mike?
Hello, this goes for all of you. So, simple question. Do you think that sustainable fashion can replace fast fashion?
What's sustainable?
Like because, I mean, what is sustainable? Like
in terms of quantities, no.
No.
Okay, so do you basically believe in, because I think it's like one of the biggest problem of the fashion industry is basically fast fashion and how we consume it, just all the time, one-time clothing, throwing away and buying again.
I don't think that H&M that has in their new mission statement that it's going to be the most sustainable fast fashion brand, they're never going to be. No fast fashion brand is ever going to make that. Because if we're down in Pittilas, we had a dinner, we were talking about how different magazines value brands, and if they, as they do, evaluate the same thing, it's only by the numbers. So they need to have that great amount of quantity that it's impossible.
So basically you are not believing that basically in next 10 to 20 years the climate crisis is getting that bad, that it's actually changing the consumer's way of behaving that much that the big companies, fast fashion industry would need to change for better quality, higher price and lower quantity?
I mean, there's quite a lot of studies talking about vintage taking over the fast fashion in terms of volume and size. So in that way, you could call vintage or reuse a sustainable source of buying clothing. So I believe that will take over the first market, the fast fashion market, if that was the question.
Yeah.
I think that the hope for the fast fashion industry is technical innovation. I think for brands such as ours, where we go for quality, it's not so much a question of technical innovation, because we already know how to make things that last for a long time. But for fast fashion, I think if you could manufacture a party top that has the ecological footprint of a newspaper, then that would be like a game changer, and you would make it more sustainable. And that's where I see there we would need to have a lot of technical developments. But for us, we aim for quality and long-lasting products. These kind of technological advances will not make much of a difference.
One of the reasons why we didn't, in the beginning of ResRes or Respect Resources, like birth time, we didn't use sustainable and sustainable fashion. We don't really believe that those two words is belonging to each other. Fashion about moving forward and moving in, changing things and, colors, fits, and all these kind of things. Sustainable or sustain is about being more or less at the same place. So that was our main concern, calling ourselves a sustainable fashion shop. I mean, it didn't make sense for us. So I don't believe, sustainable fashion won't take over for fast fashion. And I think we need to, make a new word for this, because it shouldn't be fashion. It should be something else. It's just, let's call it, let's put on clothes so I'm not freezing industry. So, that's all. Let's put on clothes so I'm not naked and scare away everybody else's business. It shouldn't be fashion. It should be something else, because it's a bad history that the fashion industry has. One of the worst, and one of the worst in such a short period of humankind. And I think that's one of the main issues of responsibility here, that we have caused so much damage, so much trouble, that what we need to do now, and we need to speed that up big time, and we don't really have the time. We should start inventing a time machine. So let's call it something else.
Okay, really good answers, and thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question. I would like to know, what do you think is the future of hype culture? Because obviously hype culture speaks to Gen Z, who are super woke about sustainability. And the hype culture that makes brands like Supreme, what do you think is the future of that?
The future of streetwear in general, or?
Yeah, because I think that what makes that interesting at the moment, or the past years, was very small availability, and you had to decide really fast, and became a product that was not where you don't think so much, but where you try to just get it as fast as possible, which I think is kind of contradictory to sustainability.
I would like to say something, but I don't have a microphone.
You can borrow mine. No, you can borrow mine.
You can just go very close.
So, hype culture, capsule collections, limited availability. I think this is for a certain kind of the industry definitely going to be stable. Because how as consumers, how we work right now with our phones, with our social media, etc. This is what we want. We want to tag something that only 20 other people all around the globe can tag as well in their post, in their Instagram feed, right? Yeah. So I don't think this will stop in any case, but it's a very specific thing. You just named Supreme, which is basically, no offense, in my opinion, nothing else but hype, right? So I would like to see that all this hyped brand and this fashion hype culture combines it a little bit more with sustainability, because that would be amazing. And that is, for me, for example, one of the crucial main points of sustainability. No mass and no overproduction. But again, speaking about bubbles and demographics and PhD clients earlier, it's not everyone who will go and sign up for a wait list for Kim Kardashian's underwear for 3 months just to wait for the perfect bra, you know? So it's a very specific demographic, but I think within this could totally continue.
It's quite a great sustainable model, though. It's no overproduction. They know exactly the target. They can produce exactly what they want. I mean, there's no waste besides the bad production.
Totally agreed.
But you know, it's they shouldn't call it sustainable. But it's quite an interesting model. If everyone could work like that, it would be quite amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I want to take a little different angle because I like the idea about limited. I like the idea about this. But it shouldn't be limited on behalf of something, and especially not how it's produced, where it's produced, the salary paid, and all these kind of things. If it was full-blooded sustainable hype, then it could be. But now you're mentioning Supreme. I would like to see the supply chain and then call that sustainable. So hype can be good, but for me, hype is more about I fool you now because I can take this much for this shitty product, and you're still willing to pay for it. You know, so for me, that's hype, and that's so for me, it's a no-go. But if it could be turned into something, yeah, let's just call it more respectful. Then then it could be good. Yeah.
Alex?
Sorry for the microphone.
How do you guys talk about sustainability without looking like you're greenwashing?
We are. Sorry, guys.
I mean, I agree with you a little bit about that. A brand that produces something will have a really hard time to be truly sustainable. You can do it in a little bit more respectful way. You can do it in a little bit less eco-environment impact, but it will be hard to do it fully. From our point of view, we see sustainability in a little bit different way. We see that we need to have a balance between the footprint we leave, the people in the organization, and the money we make. That's also how we drive a sustainable business. So if we can make products with a less impact, so we can earn money in a sustainable and steady way to pay wages for the staff so they can have a good life, that's also a circle for everyone to be sustainable. If we wouldn't charge the money for the products, we wouldn't have the ability to pay the wages. But also, I mean, a lot of our products come from, we have a background with outerwear that is made from polyester and nylon. It doesn't grow organically. So when we went out, when we started our kind of the same as Parley, but we did it with different partners. We went out on research to see, like, so where in the world, where in the environment does our bush grow naturally, semi-naturally? And we found all the fishing nets that floats around in the ocean. And every 2 to 3 years, the fishing industry kind of loses their nets because they could break. But it takes 600 to 700 years for them to degrade to smaller pieces in the ocean. And during that time, they kill loads of mammals and fish, and they destroy ecosystems. So from our way to be moving towards that, to help organizations that actually upscaling this, taking them away from the ocean, breaking them down and making it to rain jackets from us is a way to take a step in the direction. But if it's more sustainable than not doing the jacket, no. If we wouldn't have done any jacket at all, it would be better. But then we wouldn't be able to pay wages for the people, and that wouldn't go to the next.
I think it's a big question of how you communicate it. If we would say, for every Sandqvist bag you buy, you make the world a little bit better. You know, that would be, and that was not a joke, because that's an exact quote the Swedish company is using to sell burgers now. So it's not you see that kind of communication as well. So we try to, for those interested, we try to give the facts to say like, okay, this is recycled polyester. On average, it will have 40% less climate impact than virgin polyester. That's still an impact. And as I said, our goal should be to be climate neutral by 2015, and we need to decrease now. Just being honest about what we do and the impact of it, I think will be the best way to avoid getting the accusation of greenwashing. That said, I appreciate all the activists and consumers out there who are eager to pinpoint greenwashing and keep us on our toes, because we can't be sloppy in this.
Yeah, I think you're raising an absolute topic at a place like this, because greenwashing is everywhere. It's on this stage. It's down below you. But it's also a fine line between greenwashing and then actually trying to be able to help consumers or educate consumers in a direction to bring some awareness about what is possible and what is not possible. Because consumers' behaviors in general, for the last many, many years, we've just been used to be wearing what has been told to wear. If it's pink, we're gonna wear pink. If it's green, we're gonna be green. Now we start, as a consumer, we need to start questioning whether, can this be right? Can that be wrong? And I think so. The more critical consumers are, the less greenwashing we will see, I think. But we will be, and we want to be fooled. As humankind, we're taking the easiest exits, no matter on what cost it has. And that's just a behavior that has been developed for too long. And we are part of the greenwashing, and I'm not trying to. I just try to be as I would say transparent and as possible.
Hi, I have a related question.
Yeah?
So, I have an opinion and a question. So, I'm an economist, and I find consumption really interesting, and your comments have been super interesting to me. One piece of research that I was involved with was around insurance in financial markets, and they found that price comparison websites led to a focus on price, which meant that people were less aware of the coverage of their insurance, right? So they focused on price, and they were led down that way. And I find that fashion can be sort of reduced to an aesthetic and a price in the moment of a purchasing decision. How important to you is storytelling to kind of try and nudge consumption? And how effective do you think it is at a product level?
Well, I can jump in here until you have a microphone. From our perspective, we decided from the beginning when it comes to price point, and just to answer the first question, storytelling is extremely important, and it's not just a fairy tale. I mean, we had Hans Christian Andersen. He has been writing all kind of fairy tales in Denmark. We don't try to create a fairy tale here. We're actually trying to tell the facts as they are. I mean, we started the business with the focus of selling less. We don't do sales in our shop. We don't look at seasons. Of course, you have a winter jacket. You might not sell it high summer, but we don't do sales. We will not be forced by a business who have created the need or the renewable things for their own bottom line or stockholders. So what we just keep, same prices year, season after season, what we do is we're working with our leftovers, you know, one small here, one extra small, one extra large there. And that's what we do two days in February. So we're trying to avoid this kind of focus on the price. We don't want it to be a matter. The price shouldn't be the key thing. It should be the product and how it's produced and what do I contribute with by buying this product. That's our most important thing.
So what I see is you're basically saying the moment when you see a good deal, like a t-shirt for €5, all your knowledge about what could possibly or why it could be that low is kind of clicked off in your brain and you just go for the cheap purchase or for the good bargain, right? And I believe storytelling is one of the most effective things to work against that. Because the second that I buy a t-shirt for €5 and I'm happy about this buying decision is the moment when I deny that the actual price has been paid by someone else. And with that, I mean someone in the supply chain, most likely in the production or in the farming, etc., etc. And only storytelling will bring us this back on our radar. So that's basically what I think about that. And
totally agree. Storytelling is a key point to get people to understand it, and it's a pretty easy. I mean, we sell to wholesalers. I mean, we hate price comparison sites. We hate companies that push down sales and just lower it and only campaigning on price, because it's bad for the entire business. And if you go back to what I said before, I mean, the true cost of clothing or the true cost of food, someone has to get paid in every level until you as a consumer buys it. And if you buy, say for an example, a pair of jeans at Lidl for £5 that Heidi Klum is the model for, no one, I mean, it's hard to see that everyone got a fair cut that made those pair of jeans for £5.
I think we could continue with this discussion, basically endless, and I thank you guys for joining me today here on stage. That was absolutely inspiring and very, very motivating. I'm sure if you have more questions towards the brands or towards our external speakers, you can totally find them on the trade show today. And we have to end the talk now. So thanks. That was great questions also from the audience. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.